it was great news about a week or so ago, because on top of them saying, you know what, yeah, we'll pledge to no PST, we'll pledge to no tax hikes, we will get rid of bracket creep and save you about $300. They also took a massive surplus. It was about $13.2 billion, and they spent it well. They didn't blow it. I know. Everybody stop.
Hey everyone, I'm Franco Terrazzano, the Federal Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. I'm joined by my friend and colleague Chris Sims out there in Alberta. And hey, guess what? We got some big wins. Chris, why don't you tell us about a few of them in Alberta?
Yeah, I'm going to start off with my favorite. We actually got the vast majority of United Conservative Party leadership contenders. So these are the folks that are vying for former Premier Jason Kenney's job. We got the vast majority of those folks to sign a Canadian Taxpayers Federation pledge promising they will never impose a PST on Albertans, and they won't raise taxes if they become prime minister. So we got that win. We actually brought, me and my daughter hauled all these massive like plastic pledges with us up to the debate site, into this theater upstairs in this little room. And we handed out Sharpies, and they all came in one-on-one, and they took pictures. They had videotape, the whole shebang, and they signed it. It was good to see.
Hey, I'm just curious. I mean, these leadership candidates must be pretty busy. Like, what was the back and forth trying to wrangle them into signing a pledge? Can you give us a little bit of the background on that?
Yeah, it is. On the surface, it looks really easy, but actually trying to wrangle that many people to be in one place and all staggered so they don't have to see each other was challenging. I think in another life, I must be a wedding coordinator or something, getting all these moving parts to go in one place at one time. But yeah, there's some folks that are like, I want to do it all as a group shot all at once. And others say, like, I want to do it first so I can scoop everyone on social media. We actually had a really funny moment where one of the candidates half jokingly said, I'm going to take the blue pen so nobody else can use like the party color blue. And he actually took it. And so we had to, eventually he came back and brought it back. We thought it was funny. I mean, I had 8 different colors of Sharpie there, so it didn't matter. But yeah, it was actually quite the challenge of getting them all to do it in one place, one time. We finally settled on doing it right in the same theater as the debate, because we knew they'd all have to physically be there anyway. We did it during the walkthrough, and they all popped up there. What's interesting, though, is while it's fun in the sense that you're doing something a little bit visible and stunty, that's a lot of money. Like, them saying that they won't impose a PST, that is billions of dollars a year, and no tax hikes. Like, we will hold them to this. When they become premier, they can't raise taxes unless they want me like chaining myself to their front door. Like, they now
She'll
have
do
agreed. And I'll do it. So yeah, it was a lot of work, but I'm really happy to see it happen.
Yeah, and I mean, just ask Aaron O'Toole what happens when you break a Canadian Taxpayers Federation pledge. Not fun stuff. It's like, hey, use the chair, we use the pledge.
Yes.
Now, you talk about the billions and billions of dollars every single year that no sales tax saves Albertans. Let me just provide even more context on why this is so important. Now, I was Franco Terrazzano, formerly the Alberta director. And let me tell you, whenever it was budget time, you'd have all these academics at the universities, you'd have the union bosses, you'd have the other tax activists out there pushing for a provincial sales tax. We want a sales tax. We want a sales tax. We want a sales tax. Even a business group one time wrote a report musing about a provincial sales tax. So having this pledge to point you to say, no, the premier or the leader, whoever it may be, has already signed a pledge saying no sales tax. That is a huge win, huge win for Alberta taxpayers. Now, Chris, one other huge win for Alberta taxpayers is that Premier Jason Kenney announced that he is going to end this sneaky backdoor income tax hike known as bracket creep. Back in 2019, before his first budget, Kenney said that he would balance the books without raising taxes. Guess what? He broke that promise. Buried within his first budget was that sneaky form of taxation, bracket creep. And bracket creep happens when governments stop moving tax brackets with inflation so that taxpayers can be bumped into paying into higher tax brackets, even though what we can afford to pay hasn't actually increased. bracket creep can also erode the tax-free portion of our incomes. And guess what? Bracket creep would be costing Albertans, hundreds of dollars. But of course, that cost goes up every single year. And as inflation gets bigger and bigger and bigger and higher. So, Chris, I've rambled on for enough, but there's a few other wins in Alberta. Can you tell us about those?
I just want to put a point on it here because it's difficult. We fight sometimes for years to get wins, Franco. And I know you fought hard for this one when you were Alberta director. And one of the last op-eds you wrote for Out This Way, you said directly to the premier, you appealed to him saying, you know what, on your way out the door, may want to clean up this mess that you left here. And credit where it's due, he did. So that's a really good thing. And it's going to save Albertans, he said, on average, around $300 a year. So that's significant money. Yeah. That's a big haul of groceries for a family, like your weekend shopping. So good on all around to make that happen. And yeah, it was, let's take the run around the racetrack while we can, right? It was great news about a week or so ago, because on top of them saying, you know what, yeah, we'll pledge to no PST, we'll pledge to no tax hikes, we will get rid of bracket creep and save you about $300. They also took a massive surplus. It was about $13.2 billion, and they spent it well. They didn't blow it. I know. Everybody stop. Okay. They didn't blow it. Okay. On some, I don't know, a special interest group or some harebrained conference that they wanted to hold about basket weaving. No, they actually put a huge chunk of that down onto the debt. And then they put a little smaller portion of it into a rainy day fund. A lot of folks refer to it as our heritage fund here in Alberta. Now, of course, this is because of a big boom. It's because of our natural resources. We were able to get what they are, often call an unexpected surplus. So yeah, $13.2 billion ain't bad, but they could have screwed it up. They could have blown all of it, but they didn't. They did the smart thing. They reduced taxes and they saved some for a rainy day, and they paid down part of the debt. So really good news Out This Way for taxpayers in Alberta. Yeah,
tax relief, check. Paying down the debt, check. And putting money into some savings for the future, check. Look, I don't think we should downplay this. This is exactly what we want to see a government do when it has a budget surplus like this. So really what the Alberta government just did should be really a leadership example for the rest of the provincial governments, and hopefully one day the federal government, if I can get my act together and do the job as good as I need to be doing it. But you know what? This is such a big victory for Albertans, really, because here's the thing, right? Let's go back to bracket creep for a moment. When politicians impose bracket creep, they do so because they hope the population, the people, won't notice. But guess what? Canadian Taxpayers Federation supporters noticed. The thousands of our Alberta supporters noticed, and they emailed, and kept the pressure on their MLAs and the premier to do the right thing. And because of their effort, the premier did eventually do the right thing. Now, I also need to point out that we're getting some other wins across Canada as well. Somehow, BC just stumbled into a surplus. New Brunswick is running a surplus. And get this, even in Quebec, we have some of the main parties, the CAQ, the Liberals, and the Conservatives, all announcing income tax relief. So, Simmer, we're getting some good victories across Canada. And with that, I just want to reiterate, our supporters, it's no time to take any days off now. We have to keep the pressure on, especially the pressure on those federal politicians.